Hello humans, I'm Krotov. I'm in Moscow looking on the monument to Prince Yuri Dolgoruki, a legendary founder of Moscow. And just the opposite to this monument is the Moscow Mairie. This building was built before 1917, but under Stalin it received the first floor, the ground floor, with 3 rows of windows. It was built in 1936. I enjoy Moscow. I was born in Moscow and I live in Moscow all my life. And I'm very sorry that nowadays Moscow is mostly associated with the war in Ukraine. And the first question to me, from the side of the people who made this video in the web, would be, are you pro-war or anti-war? And I shall explain this just in a minute. But before, let us go a little bit closer to the heart of the model, Kremlin, Moscow Kremlin. This street is called Tverskaya because it leads to the city of Tver, north of Moscow region, something like 200 kilometers. And there is a lot of different passages. For example, the building which you see on the left is the Institute of Marx and Engels, where all manuscripts of Marx and Engels are kept. It is still working. Tverskaya, you see the first row of marvelous buildings. It's just the usual way of Soviet style, of Stalin style. Now the first row is very grandiose, terrific even. Well, remember, all these buildings have been built in 1930s. So, and actually we can see already Kremlin. If you know where it is. Because the first tower of Kremlin called Nikolskaya, because there was an icon of Nikolai. Nikolai is, well, the Eastern Orthodox pronunciation, the Russian Orthodox pronunciation of Saint Nicholas, Santa Claus. So you see the tower. This is Kremlin. And by the way, can I show myself, I wonder? Well, I guess somehow, let me show you my face, although I'm not a great admirer of my face. So, am I pro-war or anti-war? Certainly I'm against the war in Ukraine. And I shall not call this war, I shall call this invasion. But because the war continues for 2 years, actually it's the war, a little bit strange war. The idiom strange war was first invented in 1939. It was about the German-French War, which was really a little bit strange because there was no much events in this war. And now I shall say that the invasion of Russia into Ukraine is over, and we have the same situation as in Northern Korea from 1952, or on Cyprus between Greece and Turkey. The war is over. I'm against this war. Actually, I'm 67 and I was against the war in Afghanistan, which began in 1979. I was against the war in Chechnya, which began in 1995, and more than 500,000 of Chechens were killed by the Kremlin army under the order of Boris Yeltsin. I was against the war in Georgia in 2008. I'm not sure that I pronounced the date correctly. I was against the war, against the invasion to Crimea, Ukraine, in 2014. And what is maybe more prominent is that I'm against any war, any violence, any killing. I'm, you can say, a complete pacifist, more perfect pacifist than Gandhi, who during the First World War, Gandhi told Indians that it will be fine if they'll participate in this war as British soldiers, to show to the British lords that they don't afraid to struggle. Well, I'm against any killing. And I don't think that killing during the war, which defends children, women, is justified. Now we got Kremlin. But I think that, and in this sense, I'm more anti-war than most Westerners now, because they began criticizing Russia for militarism only in 2022, when Russian troops nearly took over Kiev and Russian bombs reached Lviv, which is not far from Poland. So it's actually just near the borders of NATO. And I've criticized Russian Kremlin and Russian militarism all my life. So Westerners were afraid, they were very scared of Russian invasion in 2022 because it was very close to the West. But I'm very far from the West. I live in Moscow. So, actually today is May 4th. Tomorrow will be Sunday, 5th of May, and it will be Russian Orthodox Easter, according to the old style. And on the 9th of May, there will be the so-called Victory Day. 9th of May, 1945, Stalin signed a special agreement with Nazi that they are capitulation. West thinks that Victory Day is May 8th, but Stalin wanted a special date which will, so to say, mark that Russia is a separate state, Russian Empire, which was called USSR at that time, but still it was just the Russian Empire. So I'm afraid that the Red Square, which is behind me, and we see the monument to Marshal Zhukov and the red building of the National Historical Museum, I'm afraid that the Red Square is closed because they're preparing to some commemoration events on the 9th of May. But I think that we've not lost too much. So about my anti-war position. Yeah, the gates are closed. I think that the main question today is whether NATO is dangerous to Russia. One of my favorite thinkers of modernity, Noam Chomsky, famous American scientist, I shall say the founder of modern linguistics, who is alive, although he's nearly 100 years old, and he's active, he's speaking. Noam Chomsky thinks that NATO is and was the danger to Russia. And this is why Russia, Kremlin, Moscow, Putin began their military activities in Ukraine. I think this is absolutely wrong. You see, NATO was created to defend the West, and whether there was something from which to defend the Western countries. Sure, remember, after the Second World War, Russian Empire, led by Stalin, conquered Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Eastern Germany, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and some other minor countries. Sorry if I've forgotten some. So, this is the Red Square. I shall come. No, yeah, closed. In Moscow, it is 7 o'clock of the morning. So now we see Nikolskaya Bashня, and we see Spasskaya Bashня. Spasskaya, in Russian Spas, is the shortened version of the word Spasитель or Savior. So there was an icon of Jesus Christ, of our Lord Jesus, above the gates of Spasskaya Bashня, and it was restored in 1990s. And we see it's 7 o'clock. Actually, under the clock there are some strange white figures, sculptures. It's the sculpture of those unicorns. They've been put on the tower in the 17th century, and the symbols were taken from Great Britain. Unicorns and lions. But they are so old, and they've been made of the white stone, which was very soft, that you don't see any horns now. And certainly the mausoleum of Lenin. Here we go. Actually, in 1957, when I was 10 years old, I've participated in the demonstration on the Red Square, and I had a very important mission to give flowers to the leaders of the Communist Party. So I and several of my classmates, we've been ordered to go upstairs to the mausoleum. It was 50 years of the October Revolution, and I gave flowers, I don't know to whom, maybe to Brezhnev, maybe to Kosygin, God knows. Lord have mercy upon me. Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. Yeah, oh, 3 gracious, according to the Roman. Well, yeah, 3 gracious. Why not? So, NATO was created to defend Western countries from the real danger of being conquered by the Russian Empire, USSR. And when NATO began including former parts of the Russian Empire, USSR, such as Poland, Hungary, Czechia, Slovakia, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, it was to defend them. But remember that in the end of the 1980s, the leader of the Russian Empire, the Communist Empire, was Mikhail Gorbachev. He was a good guy, wasn't he? No. He was just a usual communist, totalitarian dictator. He was obliged to make some, how to put it, sorry, I'm not a born English speaker, and I've never lived in the West, Great Britain and Canada, States, Australia, for any long time. I've been in the West sometimes, and it was not very often. So my English is far from perfect. Still, I think that, first of all, I know that Americans, Britons, they are very tolerant because we have more than 1.5 billion English speakers across the world, and a lot of dialects, a lot of different types of pronunciation. And when I've been in London, I have a British accent because my teacher was, she learned English in Cambridge. It was in 1950s. And when I've been in London, I didn't understand Cockney, actually. And when I've been in States, it took me several years of practice to understand Southern dialect, Texas dialect. And I don't think that I do this perfect. I was twice in States and once in England. Oh, no, twice in England. Sorry. And mostly I don't address Americans or Britons. I address this billion of humans who speak English as the second language. Europeans, Asians, and so on and so forth. I address any human to whom my thoughts will be interesting. So let us return to Gorbachev. Gorbachev was a bloody dictator. He killed Lithuanians in Vilnius. He ordered to kill them in order to keep Lithuania in the borders of the empire. But he was very weak because the economy of Russia then was undermined by the war in Afghanistan. And during the struggle with Yeltsin, who was also the bloody dictator, he was also the danger to the West. And let us remember that it was Gorbachev who began a special operation to keep Moldavia in the Russian Empire. And he created the buffer state, the proxy state of Republic of Prydnestrovia, Transnistria, it was usually called 100 years ago in the West. It is part of Moldavia theoretically, on the paper, but actually it is the part of the Moscow Empire. And nobody bothered because Westerners received Eastern Germany. They were so happy. So Gorbachev and Yeltsin, both of them, tried to keep Georgia. And this is why they've used the old imperial principle, divide et impera, divide and rule. And everywhere they've created Russian bases, army bases, and they helped to different nationalists. For example, in Georgia, they've helped to the people of Abkhazia, which is part of Georgia. But they said, let you be free from Georgia and we will help you. So actually, sure, Russia is a very dangerous state, and NATO must defend the West from this danger. I shall say that Russia is more dangerous than China because Russia is the garrison state. This is the term of Spencer, founder of sociology, American scientist of the 19th century. Garrison state. You see, Great Britain was also the state which waged a lot of wars and created the empire all over the globe. But it was not the garrison state because the fruits of British victories were for the British citizens. And the fruits of Russian victories, they were only for the government. So Russian government never permitted struggled against its own people, just like with foreigners. British people waged war and received some positive bonuses, so to say, liberties, freedom. Russian inhabitants of Russia led wars, but they received nothing. They remained serfs, and even worse, they remained mostly soldiers. Now we see Karl Marx from the back. So, NATO wasn't a danger to Russia. Russia was and still remains danger to the West. And this made Russia a very special state. But the problem is that Western politicians and Western people in 1990s never thought about Russia as some danger. This was the mistake. They just didn't want to know anything about Russia. And they've helped to Yeltsin to recreate, to restore the despotism, the militarism in Russia, to restore the power of establishment. And Russian establishment is mostly the war establishment. Remember that Gorbachev was the leader of the clan, or the fraction of Russian establishment, which represented ideology, communist theorist, and Yeltsin represented the war clan in Russia. For many years, he was the secretary of the Communist Party in Yekaterinburg, which was and still is the center of the Russian military production. So victory of Yeltsin over Gorbachev was the victory of militarism, of generals, of those who produce military weapons over the communist theorists. And they've replaced Marxism and Leninism with Russian Orthodoxy. And here we see the Grand Theater, there, with Apollo on quadriga on the roof. So Apollo against Karl Marx. Apollo and Marx. I know that in the West now, Marxist is any scientist who thinks about the material circumstances of the human life. This is ridiculous. And I'm not a Marxist, certainly. And I shall stress that Marx is a very dangerous name, and he was a dangerous thinker because for him, first of all, violence was a legitimate means to reach the happiness of people. Violence, dictatorship. He said that violence is the mother of history. So actually I see the situation in the world now as there are two worlds: world of freedom and liberties, world of democracies. And now we see the KGB in front of us. Yeah, this is famous KGB, and this is the shop, Детский мир, children's house with toys and so on and so forth. So, two worlds: world of democracy. I will not say freedom and liberties because these are a little bit different things. But the world of the democratic world and the totalitarian world. First of all, China, and second, Russia. And the world of democracies is lesser than the world of slavery. Totalitarianism is another sort of slavery. And I'm a slave of Kremlin. Remember this. Remember that Azopus was the slave and still was a free man, free in his soul. Formerly, I'm a slave of Kremlin. I will not do what Kremlin urges from me, if it will. But Kremlin can kill me, can abuse me, and I will not do anything against it because the slave has no rights. I have no rights at all here. So, the world of slavery is more numerous. And when in the end of 1990s, Fukuyama said that it is the end of history, the end of story, it's the victory of democracy, he was lying. Certainly no. And the Western world, the world of democracies, is obliged to defend itself from the world of slavery. There is some technical superiority of the West, of the free world, over the world of slavery. This superiority was received not because Western countries are, not because freedom and market economy are so positive for the economic development. No, it is the result of the 200 years of imperialism and colonialism based on the technical dominance. No, this technical dominance is over. It is over. And China is the real threat to the West and to the world. Not because it will conquer everything, but because other countries will join China and Russia in their struggle with liberty and freedom. So the world of democracy defends itself, and it's okay. The problem is that it is lying. It is stating that there was the situation of victory. It's the usual war lie. I'm stronger, I'm bigger, and you are just a tiny chicken. Ha ha, tiny chicken. So you must be more humble. You must look on the situation more realistic. And you must resist to totalitarianism, both from abroad and the inner trends which can result in some sort of despotism. And yes, we see the KGB in front of us, a nice symbol of totalitarianism. Okay, I think I shall finish now. I'll try to continue. I will be very glad if you'll put likes and become my subscribers, because I need, it seems to me, 50 subscribers to to have the right to make direct translations. Okay, goodbye. So it was Yaakov Krotov.